Hello, this is Mary Harris from Paper Crow. Thanks for joining me today. I've accumulated a collection of old envelopes from these little bundles that I get at antique stores. I talked about them in other videos, so sorry if this is repetitive. But I've been looking for ways to use the envelopes, and I put together some samples of things that I've done to put them into junk journals. This is a 2-page that gets stitched into a journal book, and it has spaces for tucks, and it's secured with like a scrapbooking type double-sided paper. And this one has it's sort of like a grocery store paper bag feel to it, but I actually got it in sheets in packing material. So that's one version. Oh, this is Oliver. He's helping. I've also done the style where you layer the inside with just the inside back with a double-sided paper. So in this case, there's some flaw in the envelope where it was ripped open, and having that double-sided, then when it peeks out, it looks like part of the art piece. And this is made to glue into a book and be a flap on a page. And this style is just an envelope tuck. So very simple. It has room for a large tag type thing and a tab to pull it out itself. So this is something that could be put into like a belly band in a book, but it has its own little surprises inside. So I thought I would show you what I have done by recreating these. Maybe I'll get rid of the cat first though and get him out of here. He's always excited to help. I'm gonna probably break these into 3 different videos so people aren't stuck watching a ridiculously long video. So I think I'll start with the bigger project. We're gonna do the double-sided junk journal insert. Now the way that these envelopes are opened, we want the opening out, and we could do them so the writing is facing each other, or we could flip one and have it look, they're going to be separated when they're in the book anyway, so it doesn't have to, it can be however you want it to be. I love these old airmail ones, they're so pretty. So now we need a double-sided piece of paper. I just got this book from Michael's Art. It's Vicki Boaton. I've never heard of her before, so I was pretty excited to find some new double-sided paper. It's hard to find double-sided paper nowadays. I think with these colors, let's see, that one's pretty. That could work. It has a mixed kind of thing on the inside. So I'm gonna get our double-sided paper out. Let me pull out my example so I have it in front of us. So I did these 2 different ways. I did one with double-sided paper where I had a flawed envelope because it gave strength to that envelope. These are both pretty weak envelopes, so I think we're going to need a stronger edging. And this one, I just did the edge of it because the edge was cleanly cut and the envelope is strong, but it did have a bit of a jagged edge, so I just wanted to keep it easy to put things into that. So of these two, this one has some damage to the envelope, but it's still a clean cut, and this one is a clean cut too, but it's very fragile. So I think what I'll do is glue this back down and put paper in here. Because it has a bit of a rip, I think I do want to use the double-sided here. Just so, yeah, I'm just trying to think of the best way to do it. This one is really fine. So we're definitely going to need some construction paper thickness or cardstock, not just like used papers like I did with the other one. So I have a double-sided piece of paper here. I'm going to trace the size of the envelope with just taking a smidge off of the width because it needs to fit into the envelope. And I just hand trace it, but you can measure it and use a paper cutter if you so choose. Oh, did I lose my pencil lead? Now I'm really looking to secure the entrance of the envelope, not the whole thing. So I don't need a whole sheet. Usually, after I check to make sure it fits, I'll use this for both sides. So I just cut it in half. And then I have one for each side. Now in this case, I'm going to fold it over because I want it to be an edge for this envelope. So I guess you could use single-sided for this part, but since I'm using the double-sided for other pieces, I'm just doing both together. Let's see if I can get it on there. Okay. So when I glue this on, it's going to give a solid edge, but the envelope stays pretty much intact. We could flip it and go the other way if we wanted that pattern. I kind of like to add a little bit of color. Now I don't want to block as much on this side, so I'm actually going to fold less of it down. And you can, I'm not big on worrying about matchy-matchy, but some people are, so use your own judgment. But I do like to keep as much of the writing exposed as possible. Plus, this is an amazing stamp. I'm sad I'm even going to block a little bit of it. I'm going to chop his head off, but still, it's better than it could be. So I'm going to glue these on, and then I have this solid opening, but maintain the wonderfulness of antique papers. It's just, I love that texture. Okay, so now we got to glue them. I'm going to do one at a time. I'm going to keep that in there to keep it solid. It makes life easier. And because we're sliding it down onto the envelope, you can put the glue on the whole thing. And as you slide, it will evenly distribute it. You don't have to worry about it getting on the wrong parts of the envelope. My cat has officially given up trying to invade my space. He really was not happy about not being allowed to lay on top of my art today. I am a little bit indulgent and just let him sit there a lot of times. So there's one side. Now we're going to do the same thing here. If you wanted them to be even, then you could use a scoring board or just measure it with a ruler. I don't worry that much about it because I usually end up putting so much stuff on top of it anyway that any little bit of unevenness is not going to be, it's just not going to matter. Got a little bit of a chunk. This glue is getting very old. I need to replace it. Okay, now we're ready. So this will also hold this weak end together where the old glue is starting to come apart, which is nice. It kind of serves all the functions. There. Now we have a vintage envelope with a solid opening that's less likely to fall apart when you go to put something in it. It's still going to be fragile on the ends, but it's much better than if it was just by itself. We can also put a tag on there. Like on these I put, not a tag, a tab. I put a tab on them to help open them, so then you're not jerking and trying to get in there. I could use the same material, just the opposite side. We could use some lace on there. I got some vintage lace from just a regular thrift store today. It's a total score. So we could, I usually cut the ruffling edge off and get a little bit more bang for your buck when it's spread out. Plus I like it to be a rougher edge. That sheds pretty good. Now I don't know, that's going to be a little too big, but let's figure out what paper I want on there first. I have some remnants from packaging. I could do a little tab with that. It looks a little rougher. Let's start there. I'm going to kind of cut this up so it has bits from each part. And if we go, well, we could go right to the, depends on how matchy-matchy I want to be. I think I'll put it there. And then we'll have a tab that comes out a little bit. It also gives it a little bit of pizzazz. We could put some lace on there, but I don't know that it needs it. Let's try just a little bit. So we could do lace in between things. I don't want to lose that natural, like all the little tabs and stuff, but I could see a little bit of lace on the end. And you only are doing one side because the other one is tucked into the opening. So, all right, let's glue this down first. So with these tabs, you're just going to put glue over the whole thing because we're going to glue it to itself to make it even more solid. I already forgot where I put it before, but that's okay. I don't want it to stick out too much, just enough that it makes it easier to grab and open up that envelope. Okay, so I'm pushing it down on the paper, but also against itself so that it gets that solid tab feeling. And then I'm going to add this little bit of lace on the end. I'm going to rough it up a little bit more. Although it looks pretty good just cutting it up so it doesn't have the really clear lines anymore. Now fabric tack can get kind of webby if you're not careful with lace. So I try to put it on the areas that have thicker lace, but there's no perfect science to it, so you just have to accept that it's not going to be perfect, probably. There we go. Alright, I'm going to set that one aside. Now we need to do something with this. And this one I'm going to do a solid insert that's not, doesn't go over the edge, so you can see the difference. I'm still going to use the same paper, same technique. I'll measure it out, making it a little bit shorter than the envelope size so that it fits easily. I just got done with a visit with my mother. She came up to see my granddaughter in a play, James and the Giant Peach, something like that. They did an amazing job. It was middle schoolers, so it was very impressive how professional they were, really, at their age. Now you're going to watch me be really lazy and just cut from what I already cut. I worry more about doing this with the antique papers because I don't want to accidentally, once you ruin those, you're done. But it's not as hard to come across scrapbooking paper. So I'm going to make sure both of these fit inside first, because I've sometimes gotten to the point of gluing and then realized I was a little too long. That works. So with them being the same size as the envelope, you're really going to be putting your tucks in between the papers. I'm going to flip this one so when you open it, it's a rainbow. But any parts that stick out, like if this peels back, we could even put a little word in there. So if someone opens it, like a little phrase or something. Okay, so let's get these more even. I should have just done this to begin with, but I kind of avoid the paper cutter. It's just, even though I use it all the time, it's in the weirdest place in my art studio because it's just big and clunky. So I just don't want to dig it out, you know? There, now we have two straight ends, so there won't be weirdness. There we go. So I'm going to glue one at a time. And the same thing goes with this. I can glue down the whole thing. I am going to be mindful that this tag is, or this flap is coming down, because I do kind of like the idea of having a surprise in there. We could even put some paper on that flap to give it some strength. I don't know, I gotta think about it. But to start off with, we're just gonna get this in there. Come on. So if you hear any bangs in the background, there's a festival here called Haikilunta. There's a lot of ice fishing and a huge bonfire, and it's their way of sort of celebrating the incoming warmer days and getting drunk and listening to music. Everybody has a good time. My kids have always gone to the bonfire and the fireworks. I know, it looked like the whole lake was going to collapse today. There were so many trucks driving around on it because it's a big ice fishing tournament. They also put this huge monstrosity on the ice and then take bets on what day it's going to fall through the ice. It's an interesting cultural thing here. But we spend about 8 months in winter here, so people find ways to celebrate it any way they can. Well, you can kind of see the polka dots through. That's kind of cool. I don't know if everybody would like that, but I do. So what I was thinking is we could put like some cardstock in here and make this a true flap. I might use up this whole sheet of paper. So if we put it in there, we can glue it in and then cut around it, which I think is probably going to be the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to put the glue on the envelope flap itself. I'm slowly working myself out of frame, sorry. So we're in the phase of the celebration where they're doing the test fireworks, where every like 10 or 15 minutes they set off a firework to make sure they want to catch as soon as it's dark enough to do the fireworks. They want to do them, so they'll test every once in a while. So you're going to hear a bang every once in a while. No one's shooting at me, I promise. Alright, now I'm going to just cut this off. And it should make for an interesting flap. I didn't do anything like this with the last one, but you know, every project is a new beginning. I kind of need smaller scissors for this. These aren't the best for small projects. I have a million little mini scissors. I don't know. I lose them. I buy new ones. I lose them. I buy new ones. One thing about small scissors, they're easy to lose, especially in craft bags when you go traveling. Now we gotta figure out what little secret message we want to put in there. That could be fun. So we have the flap. I just need a thing to go in here. Then we're going to put a tab on the other part of the envelope. That'd be funny. Just says come in. So when you open it. Oh, that's funny. I have a lot of heads in here too because I was making these little tucks where you put a head on and then you make their clothes out of rips of fabric. It's fun to do. It's a lot easier to do women's clothes that way than men's. It's still as good as new. Well, I kind of like that. It's still as good as new. That's kind of fitting. Okay, we're going to go with that. We could just put it in like that, or we could add a little bit of color somehow, like a little strip of fabric. Alright, so we have a tab. I don't know if we want to put some lace on there. Maybe up here. No, I think I'm just gonna leave it. It's got so much going on already. These need to go out. I think I'm going to flip one of them. So I just gotta see how I want it to go. Just in case they end up next to each other. Like if someone decides to put it in the center. Oh, I hate to lose all that beauty with whatever randomness I put on there, but okay. Now we need a lace that's wide enough to go over the two, or material. It doesn't have to be lace. I'm gonna do lace with this one. I did material on the last one, I think. I might have done paper actually. So I cut off one of the edges just so that it's not bunched anymore. And what I'm going to do is glue it to each with a gap because you want to leave room for the stitching down the center. But you still want them to be close enough that, yeah, I don't mind that. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to run a line on each side and just rub it in. And I can use the end of the glue thing to rub it in too, so I don't get it all over myself. My hands always end up with glue on them though. It's inevitable. So I'm going to put this one down and always make sure it's lined back up again. Okay. Can always add glue later if we need to. Now the next piece is going to be just to secure it, so it doesn't have to be as big, and I think I just want to do a thin one because I don't want to block all of that beautiful. Look at these vintage stamps, they're so gorgeous. I have this yellow. It might be too thick, but I kind of like it. I think I'm going to do it. I don't know why it appeals to me, but it does, so that's what I'm going to do. I only want to go over a little bit on this side, and then the rest will be attached to the other envelope. Hopefully I won't lose too much that way. And after it's glued down, then I'll worry about cutting off excess. I'm going to try to put glue just where there's bunches in the lace so I don't get too much gloppiness coming through, but it's never perfection. Okay. Now I'm going to have to glue each of these little tendrils. Would that be the right word for lace? It's going to have to be able to take a little bit of abuse being open and closed, so. It's a bit more bunchy than I originally had planned, but I still love it. I'm going to give it a chance to dry before I do too much, but I'm going to cut these edges off. There we go. Oh, that's so fun. I've glued this yellow lace down on one side and a white lace on the other. And it still folds and can be stitched in that center. It is a little bit more bulky than I originally planned, but I do like how it looks. Turned out pretty cool. And then we have our little tuck. I think I might have to add a little bit of glue in here, but this side, oh, I guess there's a little flap that's not glued down. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll put some tucks in and we'll be complete. Oh, I accidentally put my bottle the wrong direction. I do, when I remember, I put my glue bottle upside down in something while I'm working so that I don't constantly have to shake it. There we go. I found this little mini cup at a secondhand store. Beam me up. It's so cute. But it's perfect for putting your glue upside down, and it's heavy enough that it'll stay that way. And then I don't constantly have to shake my glue down. Alright, so we have our pages to be stitched into the book. Now let's test the tucking. I have, ooh, oh, I'm glad I decided to do that. It was a little stuck together. So you can open it fairly easily. Put that tuck in there. This one we have the flap or this tuck, which is a little bit harder to open up than the last one. But we can still put our tuck in there and pull it out if we want and put it back in. It doesn't mess with that. Even though this seems like such a small thing, I actually do really like that. It does need more glue though. I don't think I let it sit long enough when I did it before. I want to make sure that flap only opens for the flap and doesn't slowly take apart the envelope. Cute. I love it. Alright. So there's our envelope pages. I hope you had as much fun as I did putting these together. And if you didn't feel like doing this project, I'm still glad you joined me and checked it out. It turned out so cute. Alright, have a great day.